Hello. I've always wanted to make a video like this for a while. I've always been into like conspiracy stuff. Always thought it was pretty interesting, but I've never known the right way to go about it. So I figured I should probably just rip off the Band-Aid and go out with the biggest like conspiracy of the past like 20 years, and tackle 9/11. So as we know, 9/11 was an inside job. It was conducted by the U.S. government. They blew up the big boom buildings with some fake planes, but they weren't planes, were they? So today we're going to explain all of that and explain why it's all so very wrong. First of all, why would anybody believe 9/11 was a conspiracy? Well, essentially, it all boils down to people are very stupid. I don't think that's actually the case. I think people are just skeptical because it was such a big event. It almost seems like it'd be fake, right? Two planes flying into two buildings in one of the world's biggest cities. It seems like it's a little odd, right? So also the whole thing is just really convenient for the United States government. I mean, think about it. The US wants to go to war with the Middle East for resources like oil. You know, it also allows the US to give funding to the military, which is, you know, they always love doing that. It gives the government more excuses to go out and survey its people more because, you know, the government loves spying on you like they're doing right now. Companies have no reason not to lobby for it. I mean, they're going to get money out of it too, I'm sure. And then, of course, the rich people can enact the New World Order. What is that? I don't know. We'll talk about it later. There's tons of different little conspiracy theories floating around, and all of them are equally stupid. Not exactly. We'll talk about some of the even dumber ones later. But for now, I want to set a very basic guideline for, or timeline, I should say, for how 9/11 happened according to conspiracy theorists. To begin, the government wanted to invade the Middle East and enact the New World Order, but they didn't know how they wanted to go about it because if they just told the public, hey, we're invading, they'd be, well, they wouldn't be happy about it. I wouldn't be. So they decided, what would be a good idea? Blow up two buildings in the biggest city in the country. Good job, US government. So Al-Qaeda being a recognizable terrorist organization, it was decided that they would take the fall for the US government. They apparently wouldn't have had any involvement in this, I guess. According to some people, all leaked footage that would have come out of Al-Qaeda would actually be Obama. You know, because Osama bin Laden, Obama, same thing, right? Apparently, if you like take the beard off of bin Laden and de-age him, it becomes Obama. All right. So beginning on the day of the attack, Michael Jackson, Mark Wahlberg, and Seth MacFarlane were all on their way to the World Trade Centers. Apparently, Michael Jackson just so happened to sleep in that morning. And Seth MacFarlane and Mark Wahlberg were supposed to be on two of the planes. I think one of them decided they were going to Canada or something, and then the other one was just like, I don't remember exactly. But none of them ended up being at the World Trade Center that day. That would have been 3 celebrities that would have died that day. That would be insane, but they didn't for some reason. So it's speculated that the government told them not to go there because I guess they care about Hollywood. I don't know. So at some point in the few days leading up to the attack, bombs were planted in the building that were supposed to go off whenever the event was supposed to be triggered by the planes. In addition to this, something called Nano-Termite was to have been used. The concept of Nano-Termite boils my blood, so we'll talk about it more later, but just know for now that it was used in 9/11. So eventually later on 9/11 in the morning, the bombs went off. And CGI footage of planes hitting the buildings was provided to all major news networks. How they could have pulled this off, I don't know, but don't question the government. At some point while this was all occurring, a stray missile hit the Pentagon. Nobody knows where it came from. It kind of just appeared somewhere and was just hit the Pentagon. Later on in the day, directed energy weapons were used to take down the buildings. Yeah, apparently the US government somehow has hidden laser weapons, essentially, just somewhere. Neat. In addition, a plane was shot down in a field over Pennsylvania because apparently the passengers would have figured out what was going on. And the government couldn't have that. So they shot down a plane full of people. All right. Later in the day, at the time, New York Mayor Rudy Giuliani, Donald Trump, and Steve Buscemi showed up to Ground Zero to confirm that the attack worked. No, I'm not kidding. A couple hours later in the day, Tower 7 would have been bombed because, I don't know, I guess 3 buildings is better than 2. I think that covers just about everything. You know, of course, George Bush was in kindergarten at the time, reading bedtime stories. Eventually they took off in Air Force One. Yeah, no, I mean, kind of cut and dry stuff. I mean, well, I believe it. So obviously all of these things are just incredibly stupid. None of them really make any sense. I mean, think about it. Directed energy weapons, Nano-Termite. What even is that? So, you know, we're going to sit here for a few minutes and try and, you know, dig through some of these little theories and tell you why they're wrong. So the first one is kind of just baby's first conspiracy theory. Apparently jet fuel can't melt steel beams, which, yeah, it can't. Jet fuel burns at a certain temperature, and then steel beams burn at an even higher temperature. Now it's, you know, possible that metal can bend whenever, you know, it's heated. That's basic thermodynamics. You heat something, it becomes more flexible. Atoms start moving around better, and that's how that works. So the idea is that jet fuel would have ignited in the building, ignited all the other stuff in the building, and the metal would have gotten weaker as the temperature rose. Basic stuff. I go to school for this. You know, once again, conspiracy theorists prove they have no knowledge whatsoever. They can even sit down and do 5 minutes of research to discover basic material science. Who'd have thought? So the next one we're going to talk about is the motives of the attack. Obviously, they believe that the US government bombed the buildings because war and money. So, I mean, I guess it's possible that the government could have done something like this. I mean, it's not totally out of the realm of possibility, but at the same time, I mean, you know, anybody could have blown up the building. I mean, at this point, I could say Markiplier blew up the building by Fortnite dancing with Freddy or something. I don't know. I mean, at this point, half the bombings are going to get blamed on the US government anyways. I've definitely seen a lot of the major shootings have, so conspiracy theorists have no bounds. They're just going to blame everything on the government because they hate the government. They think the government's the root of all evil. And frankly, are they wrong? So conspiracy theorists seems to believe that there's no way that the plane could have taken the building down by itself. They flip-flop between if jet fuel can melt steel beams and if a plane actually has the capability of cutting a building in half. Some people seem to believe that if a plane smashes into a building, it'll just pancake into the building. I guess they watch too many cartoons or something. I don't know. But it's definitely, you know, if you point a plane at a building and going at high enough velocity, it'll crash through the building. Surprise, surprise. Apparently, some people have reported that they heard bombs going off during the day, which, let's be honest, it could have really been anything. There's a building falling down. A lot of things happening, a lot of shock, different things. Now, the funny one is that some people seem to believe that there were silent bombs going off in the building. You know, explosions with no sound or anything. I don't know how anybody managed to come up with this one, but all right. Honestly, could be really cool tech. Silent bombs. Yeah, I'll take it. Now we're going to talk a little bit about Nano-Termite. So, Nano-Termite is this, it's basically thermite, but small, I guess, is the best way to describe it. And the way they discovered this was a group of theorists gathered some dust from 9/11, like a sample, and went and tested it in their own lab, and went and looked at a little microscopic view of it, and they saw little orange brownish specks. And they claimed that this is Nano-Termite because, wait for it, it looks like thermite. But realistically, is it Nano-Termite? Probably not. They claim it's because the color is similar. There was a Tower 7 was, you know, orangish, brownish. You know, I mean, there's a lot of things that could have made that. There's no guarantee it was Nano-Termite, let's be honest. It's just really stupid. The first time I heard Nano-Termite, I laughed my head off for probably like 5 minutes because it's stupid, and the explanation for it is even dumber. But on the record, it was definitely Nano-Termite because what else could it be, honestly? And if you're going to try and prove me wrong in the comments section, you're a government shill. Screw you. Because, I mean, heaven forbid the specs come from anywhere else, right? I mean, so it's obviously a thing that videos were sent to the news stations containing animated planes that flew into the building and looked really accurate. Now, I don't know about you, but I don't think CGI was that good in 2001. It was pretty decent, you know. I mean, it's okay, nowhere near as good as it is today. I'd argue today they couldn't, you know, animate it that well. But regardless, apparently in 2001, the government was capable of animating planes flying into a building with 100% accuracy. Looked perfect. And somehow they managed to do that and send it to the US government before anybody noticed. And nobody's noticed for over 20 years. This is also completely ignoring the fact that people were definitely there and they saw the planes hit the building and definitely told everybody about how the planes hit the building. And there's also been footage that's not been uncovered until recently. Wouldn't somebody have eventually uncovered that planes wouldn't have actually hit the building? Not possible. If you think so, you're a government shill. So in order to, like, you know, compare CGI, I went up and looked some examples for CGI in 2001, and I found this movie called The Mummy Returns, and oh boy, yeah, I firmly don't believe that the government could have faked the planes hitting the building. It's stupid. So another big theory was that the Pentagon was hit by a missile and not an actual plane. This one is so comically stupid it hurts. First of all, there's multiple angles of the Pentagon getting hit by a plane. There were plane parts found at the site. You know, just different things that definitely point to the fact that the Pentagon was hit by a plane. The main part of this was the fact that the Pentagon's, like, the chunk taken out of it was very, like, narrow, like, and they're saying that there's no way that a plane could have hit it, but, like, I don't even know how to help this one. Like, a plane does not have to go in at a, you know, horizontal plane. If it hits vertically, that's plane. You know, if it just hits differently, it's going to make a different impact. It's really stupid. Trying to explain anything to conspiracy theorists is... There's also the part of where the missile would have come from, which just... nobody seems to know. Like, I guess they're kind of just like, oh, it came from Russia, or some rogue agent was just like... Or, oh, no, it probably makes sense that the US government would have sent it to be like, hey, oops. I don't know, it's... So the next big one is directed energy weapons. Need I explain? So conspiracy theorists already believe that the government can control the weather. If you don't know about that, go look up HARP. I might do a video on it in the future. I don't know. But basically, it's a weather station, or weather station. I think it's like a monitor or weather monitoring station, but people believe that it controls the weather. How they came with that one, I don't know. But by that logic, sure, conspiracy theorists can believe all day long that the government has big space lasers that can level buildings in an instant. Go ahead. I really can't tell whether or not Nano-Termite or directed energy weapons is the funnier theory. I love them both. They're equally ridiculous. So one that actually, like, kind of confused me when I was younger was the Building 7 collapse. Before anybody actually explained any details about the Building 7 collapse, it kind of made no sense. From what I heard, people were just like, oh, well, you know, Building 7 collapsed. Nobody really knows how or why. It just kind of did. So everybody kind of expected the government probably blew it up. Now that I know more info, yeah, the government didn't blow it up. It just happens like that. Essentially, what happened is after the planes hit the building, some of the debris and fire fell down onto Tower 7, which ended up catching fire and burned and burned and burned, and then it fell. That's how buildings work. The exact same thing happened in the main tower, so there's no real... It's not far-fetched to say that it would have happened in Tower 7. Some people might ask, well, why didn't the fire suppression system put it out? The fire suppression system was actually disabled or not as effective in that building due to water mains busting and such. So the building was just allowed to burn for hours, and then that's why it didn't collapse until like 5 o'clock in the afternoon, because it just kept burning until it fell. But conspiracy people have kind of just run with this for years. I mean, even to the point where I kind of believed it, because Tower 7, it makes no sense, but it does. Another one that kind of like is really interesting to me is Operation Northwoods. If you don't know what Operation Northwoods is, it's basically a document that was released detailing a plan for the American government to fake an attack on the US people in order to convince the public to go to war with Cuba. This happened back in the 60s under Kennedy. The only reason it wasn't really pushed through was because Kennedy blocked it. Good guy, Kennedy. We miss that guy. Theorists believe that the document never fully went away and that 9/11 is only one attack in a series of attacks that have occurred over the past couple of years. If you look up conspiracy boards about any of these major attacks, Las Vegas shooting, any of that stuff, Columbine, I guess you could probably say the same. Most of them are in some way linked back to Operation Northwoods. To be honest, I get it. It's a really disturbing document, and it's a very real document that does exist that you can go look up right now. I will probably end up doing a video on it eventually because it's really interesting to me, and I want to share that with y'all. All right, and that covers most of the main conspiracy talk that I wanted to explain. There's a ton more theories out there, obviously, with it being 20 plus years since conspiracy theorists have had a lot of time to schizomax since then. That's pretty much all I wanted to talk about. I might redo this video sometime in the future if it warrants it, because I'm sure this wasn't that good. But if you made it all the way through this, thank you. I'm sure this was horrible. I hope you enjoyed my little rants and complete delusion about 9/11. I wanted to be careful about how I made this video because 9/11 was an actual event that actually happened and many, many lives were lost as a result. I think conspiracy theorists sort of kind of ignore this fact completely. People actually did die, and a lot of these theories are very disheartening, I'm sure, to families that might come across them and go, wow, why? That's not to say that all conspiracy theories are bad, because I do think there are a lot of funny ones out there and are ones that I hope that I can cover someday. But this one in particular just seems to have an air around it, where a lot of theorists just have a blatant disregard for the victims that actually died in this tragedy. Let's remember, there were people desperate enough to jump out of the building. This was bad. I don't know. This is just one of those theories that kind of make me shake my head at the entire conspiracy theorist community. Because, I mean, they're a bunch of crackpots, don't get me wrong, but sometimes. I mean, like I said earlier, I was confused myself about the Building 7 incident and Operation Northwoods. It's a, somewhat credible starting point for this theory. I think if it was a little less ridiculous, yeah, it might have some water to it. But yeah, thank you for watching. I hope to make more videos like this in the future because, like I said, conspiracy stuff kind of always interests me, but I've never been able to make videos about it just because, I don't know, never had the time or knowledge of how to do it. But hope to make more like this. So hopefully I'll see you in more. Take care.